What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here with your wild card round NFL picks for the 2021 NFL playoffs. In this video, in this preview, I'm going to break down each and every game in depth, giving you my thoughts on each side of the football and giving you my thoughts on the big matchups that could really decide each matchup in this round. Now, this is a little different than how I would do it in the regular season. Typically in the regular season, it's a little bit more brief. Obviously, we have a lot more games. In the wild card round, the most games of any round in the playoffs, right? We have 3 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday. So we have 6 games in total that I need to discuss, but that's a lot less than a typical regular season week. So we can dive a little bit down and dirty into these matchups, into these games and each side of the ball and give you a good feel for the game heading into it. And I'm going to give you my best thoughts on it, at least on a Wednesday before the games begin. And what I'll be doing for the playoffs is I'll have these picks live every week as I do during the regular season. And then I'll also be releasing each preview independently on YouTube with maybe a little bit more at the end of the video where I discuss some of the betting angles for those of you that are bettors out there, some of the betting angles that we can approach from more of an in-depth, totals perspective and maybe some props that you should look at during the games. So these are going to be more for the typical NFL fan that really wants to know a lot. And I feel like the previews are going to be what this is, but then also on top of that, maybe a little bit more gambling stuff. But if you are interested in the gambling stuff, in the betting aspect of this channel, then you should be checking out my Patreon, which the link can be found in the description. So I'm going to start over in terms of the record. So the record is what it was during the regular season. We're going to start over for the playoffs, and we're going to start out at 0-0. I did pretty well in the regular season. Hopefully we can carry that over in the playoffs. These playoffs, I feel, are probably one of the more unpredictable playoffs we've ever seen. There's just not a lot of, in my opinion, historic level football teams this year. There's maybe a couple that separate themselves over the course of these playoffs or over the course of this season, but I don't see any clear favorites on either side of either conference. I know a lot of people look at Kansas City that way. I don't necessarily. I don't see the Packers as a clear favorite in the NFC. While I do believe both those teams are very good, I don't see them clearly walking through each conference. So we'll discuss the wild card round because for all we know, one of the teams or maybe both of the teams that play in the Super Bowl could be playing in these games. So that's really interesting, which I don't believe we've had for a very long time. All right. So before I get started, before I give you my picks and my preview, make sure you do Gronk spike that like button. Make sure you do Gronk spike it because that's how we get support for this channel, for this video. If you enjoy these picks, if you enjoy these previews, you can allow more people to see this channel, more people to see this preview by Gronk spiking that like button and building the BLV channel up. You can also subscribe to the channel for more NFL content just like this, in-depth stuff all over the NFL playoffs, all playoffs long. And of course, get in that comment section, ask your playoff questions. Any questions you have for me in the comments, let me know, whether that's down below, you're watching this after the fact, or if you're watching this live, let me know in the comment section how you feel about the wild card round and any questions you have about the wild card round. All right, so where do we start? I think we should start really with the first game, which we have, again, 3 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday. The first game, I believe, is the Indianapolis Colts and the Buffalo Bills. So we will start with that one. So Buffalo right now is favored by a full touchdown and an extra point. So 7 points right now. I'll give you my bet in the best bets video. So how I'm going to do the best bets video, I should also cover that, is I'm just going to do like every game and just give you like my in-depth breakdown on the which side I'm taking. So I think for this video, I'm going to spend less on the spread and just more on who I think will win the game. So let's do that. All right. So let's show a quick comparison. I got lots of graphics that I got to show you guys. So a quick comparison for both of these teams that I really feel like this is going to be a better game, I think, than most people feel. I actually really think this game is going to be quite competitive. I actually think it's not going to be a blowout. I know a lot of people believe that the Buffalo Bills are just going to run over the Indianapolis Colts. I think there are ways in this game where the Colts can not only make it close, but actually pull off an upset, believe it or not. I don't think the Colts are a great team, but I think if they play a certain style and they approach the game in a certain way, I think they have a chance to make this one good. So I'm looking forward to this game probably more now than I was earlier in the week, because as good as Buffalo has looked, as unstoppable as they have been, I do think that the Colts do pose them some problems. So let's take a look at the tail of the tape, and that is the Buffalo Bills and the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, Buffalo surged at the end of the season, but one thing that the Colts are very good at this year, turnover differential. Plus 10 in the turnover differential. That's going to be a big deal for this game. If they want to pull off the upset, Indianapolis is going to have to turn the football over defensively. They're going to have to keep possession of the football. Indianapolis is one of the few teams in these playoffs and in the NFL this year that had both a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. That is not taken lightly. Buffalo didn't have a top 10 defense this year, ranking just outside at number 12, but they have one of the better pass attacks in the NFL, and that will definitely test Indianapolis's defense in this game. Now, let's start off with the Indianapolis offense versus the Buffalo defense. So I think in this game, we are going to have to see Indy really, I think, pass as a secondary to their rushing attack. I think the way that we've seen Buffalo be able to attack and get attacked and get scored on and get consistently, beaten is by teams running the football and by teams keeping the ball away from Josh Allen. And I think that is where the game plan starts. Because I think a lot of people approach it as you need to find some sort of way to stop Josh Allen and this offense and the explosive ability. That's part of it. But I think in the NFL today, you need to score points to beat these upper echelon teams and to pull off upsets. And Indianapolis's best approach, in my opinion, as you can see just statistically, is to run the football and run the football versus a defensive line that isn't very good versus the run in Buffalo. And really, once they get to the red zone, they need to execute in the red zone. And Buffalo's defense, if they've had a weakness all year, it is in the red zone. So if they can move the ball between the 20s, keep the ball on the ground, keep the ball out of Rivers' hands unless it's absolutely necessary to attack that secondary. Obviously, you're going to have some sort of balance, but I think the primary focus for Indy is to milk the clock, keep possession of the football, run the ball, use a little play action, keep Buffalo's defense on their toes, and I think that's the best way of attacking this defense. I think that Phillip Rivers has been pretty good this year when facing not very good defenses, but Buffalo is a better defense than they've faced. I actually took a note here. I believe that Buffalo is the third best defense Indianapolis has played all year. And in those two games where Indianapolis played good defenses in the top 10, Chicago and Baltimore, they struggled to score points. So they only scored 11 and 10 points in those games for Chicago and Baltimore. Now, Buffalo statistically is not on the level of Baltimore or Chicago. Lately, they've been playing better football. And if that trend continues, you would expect that Buffalo's defense should do well enough to win this game. Now, the concern I have about Indianapolis is I'm just overall concerned about Phillip Rivers. I'm concerned about Phillip Rivers and his ability to play in the elements. This game is expected to be 30 degrees. So that is, close to freezing temperatures, right? So Phillip Rivers in cold weather games is 1-5 in those games. He is 0-3 in the playoffs. It's actually quite shocking that Phillip Rivers is a guy that's played for so long. He's only actually played in 5 games that are in cold temperatures. In those games, he has an 84 passer rating. He has 10 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So just overall, by going by the history of Phillip Rivers, it would be said or be known that Phillip Rivers is not very good in cold weather. I believe the last time he played in a playoff game that it was in cold weather, which was 2 years ago versus New England. He did not play well in that game. They got ran over. They were destroyed. The Chargers were destroyed by the Patriots, who went on to win the Super Bowl. But it's a different defense. You know, he's played some good defenses in that weather, so a lot of that has to do with the defense. I would probably assume that this Buffalo defense isn't as good as the ones he's played in the past. But still, it's something to note that Phillip Rivers, he doesn't have the strongest arm in the world. If it's cold, it might have something to do with his ability to throw the ball down the field and be efficient in that area of the game. When you take a look at the other side of the ball, when you take a look at Indianapolis's defense and Buffalo's offense, right? We have a team that I just like. Buffalo has been so good. Buffalo has been so good that I don't know if Indianapolis will be able to hang. I just don't know. Like, Buffalo's defense has been okay, but their offense has been next level, and that's really why they've been such a good team. Taking a look at the statistics, passing-wise, they're top 3 in the league. Rushing-wise, kind of irrelevant. I mean, they don't really run the ball a lot, and they haven't really had a lot of success running. So obviously they're not balanced, but it hasn't really seemed to matter in most of the games they've played this year. Most of the games they've played this year, they've been able to just be fine passing the football, better than fine, in fact. And on third down, it's been crucial for the Bills. That's kind of where Josh Allen has been able to take over with his physical ability, move the chains with his arm or his legs, scramble when necessary, buy an extra second of time to get rid of the football to make a big play. And that's really where Buffalo has been hard to stop, is on third down, especially with Cole Beasley and Stephon Diggs, who are 2 of the better route runners in the game and really tough to cover in those big situations. Now, Indy has been pretty good defensively, top 10 in both pass DVOA and run DVOA, but they do struggle on third down, and they're kind of average in the red zone. So for Indianapolis to, I believe, slow down Josh Allen in this offense and Stephon Diggs, they're going to have to be better on third down. They're going to have to get pressure, maybe be creative, send some blitzes, maybe just change up their tendencies a little bit. I think that has to come for Indianapolis. Now, something I actually heard doing research for this game is that Josh Allen has actually been at his worst when playing cover 2. So when the opposing defense plays cover 2, he has actually ranked at the bottom of the league, I think somewhere in the bottom 5 in completion percentage, which Indianapolis plays a lot of cover 2 defense, which I thought was very interesting. So if that is the case and Indianapolis plays the way they play and Josh Allen, see, this is what I'm worried about. If Cole Beasley is okay, which I assume he will be, they should be fine moving the ball underneath. But if Cole Beasley does not play, that actually would change this offense quite a bit, because I think it takes the underneath threat and the consistency of the short to intermediate passing game of Buffalo away a little bit. It just won't be as strong. So if Cole Beasley's okay and he plays, that's a big factor in my opinion. You already have a really good matchup there. Obviously, Indy has one of the better nickel corners in the NFL. But I just don't know if the Colts pass rush can get there consistently. And I feel like Josh Allen, with Brian Daboll, the way that he's calling plays, be able to just get the ball out of Allen's hands very quickly, especially if Beasley is healthy and ready to go. John Brown should be back in the lineup full 100%, so that's good. But overall, I look at this game, and I don't think Indianapolis will be able to hang with Buffalo in terms of scoring points. I think Indianapolis can make this one competitive if the game script turns out a certain way. If Indianapolis can dominate the line of scrimmage, which I should show the statistics there on that one. So the line of scrimmage, offensive line, defensive line wise, you have Buffalo 15th in offensive line yards and Indianapolis in 20th. So that's offensive line yards. Indianapolis hasn't really gotten better in terms of running the football. Lately, they've been better, right? Taylor's been a lot better lately than he was at the beginning of the year. Like, he sucked at the beginning of the year, and I feel like that had a lot to do with the way the offensive line has performed. Offensive line sack percentage, pretty even there. Buffalo's offensive line's been really good. Part of that's Josh Allen. Part of that's the offense. I do believe the defensive line's pretty even as well. Like, if Indianapolis had a dominant pass rush or a dominant secondary, then I might be looking at this game a little bit differently. But what I said about the Colts before the playoffs, I think really reigns true here. Indianapolis is a good team, but they're not a great team, and they don't have any element to their team that's great, right? The Colts don't have a great quarterback. They don't have a great offensive line this year, which we expected it to be great, but it hasn't. They don't have a great rushing attack. They don't have a great receiver. They don't have a great corner or corners. They don't have a great secondary. They don't have a great pass rush. They're good, right? You look at the stats, top 10, but they are not great. And I just feel like, sure, they can make it close. They make it competitive. If Phillip Rivers just doesn't turn the ball over, makes enough throws, but doesn't have to be forced into a lot of third downs, they'll be fine. If they can run the ball, they'll be fine. I think they can keep Josh Allen on the sidelines. They can make it close. They can make it competitive. But if Rivers isn't comfortable, if Rivers isn't, kind of the secondary option in the offense and the rushing attack isn't operating, then I feel like Buffalo is going to easily be able to run away with this game and continue to separate as the game goes on. So I could see the game being really close early on. I could see the game being really competitive early. And then I feel like Buffalo in the second half, once they kind of figure out what the Colts are doing on offense and on defense and they adjust to it, I feel like they're going to be able to kind of run away with it. So overall, I see the Buffalo Bills winning this game pretty easily. I think it's going to be somewhere like Buffalo 31, like low 30s, 31 to 34 points to Indianapolis's like 20 something, 20 to 24, 27 maybe at the most. Like, I do think the Colts can score on the Bills. I think the way that their offense is designed, I do believe that they can move the football here, but I just don't think they'll have enough on defense, really. I've seen the Colts defense be taken advantage of by good quarterbacks who have good weapons. We've seen Watson score on them. We've seen Rodgers score on them. We've seen good quarterbacks be able to move the ball through the air. And the way Brian Daboll is calling plays, the way that they have balance in their passing game, not necessarily with their rushing attack, but in their passing game, with the way that they can pass short, the pass intermediate, pass deep. I think that's too much for the Colts, who play a very vanilla style of defense. I don't know how different they can be in this matchup, but we'll see if that cover 2 stat is real on Saturday. But the first game, I think, will belong to the Bills. I think they should win this game, and I think they'll make a statement here that, hey, they are, if you didn't believe before, they are a legitimate Super Bowl contender. So I have the Buffalo Bills winning this game. In terms of the spread, I'm leaning towards going with Buffalo as well, covering the spread of 7. I think 7 is a fair number for this game. I could see some people taking the Colts. I could see some people feeling the Colts would be close, but I think overall the Bills should be able to win by, 8 to 13 points. I wouldn't be surprised. And I do feel if it's a blowout either way, it's definitely going to be Buffalo. Because I think if it's a blowout, it's basically Phillip Rivers just has a bad game in the cold, turns the ball over. I could certainly see that happening as well, which would then turn the game, in my opinion, into more of a blowout. But the Colts are a solid team. Don't underestimate them. They are solid all around, and they will make this one competitive and tough for Buffalo. This isn't an easy game. This is far from the easiest game that Buffalo's had all season. This is far from the easiest game of this week, in my opinion. I think there's much easier matchups, particularly in the NFC for some of these wild card teams than Buffalo, which is kind of funny because Buffalo's the number 2 seed in a conference, and you would think that that's an easy game, but it's not. The Colts are a legitimate playoff team. I know they're the 7 seed, but they're a legitimate playoff team. So there you go. I have the Buffalo Bills winning. I can't control the lag, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know. It's just the internet, I guess, but I can't really do anything about it. So hopefully it's all right. And my lights keep flickering too, so things are gonna happen. But yeah, that's the first game. I guess I'll wait a second here. Hopefully the lag is better. Let me know if it's all right. Hopefully it's okay. Everyone give me a thumbs up if it's okay. Of course, during the playoff preview, I get lag, but I've never had lag all season, so I don't really know. But yeah, I'm picking Buffalo. I'm going with Buffalo. I'm going to take them to win straight up, and I will also take them to cover that first game. Guys, if you haven't already, make sure you do Gronk spike that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Can I just get a thumbs up if the lag's all right, if we're back in action? It's not lagging on my screen, so I'm not exactly sure for you guys over there. Are we all good? Because I don't want to keep going if it's lagging. Good? Okay. All right. So the second game, what's the second game here? Rams and Seahawks. So let's get to that. All right. So the second game is the LA Rams at the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks -3.5 with the hook, of course. This game started really strange in terms of the spread, in terms of the line. It started off as like a -4 or something. A -4, -4.5. And I even saw it at 5 early on. It's moved all the way down to 3.5 and maybe even 3 in some places. So that's quite interesting. But it's now 3.5 as far as I know. And it's kind of unfortunate because I wasn't able to bet the game early, or I decided not to bet the game early. I had a chance to, but I didn't. I was going to take the Rams, so that kind of lets you know where I'm leaning here. But I was going to take the Rams +5. But I was like, 5 is such a weird number. Like, I'll wait on it. Hopefully it goes up to 6, but I called it wrong. So it went the wrong way. So it went to 3.5. So I guess everyone else was thinking the way I was thinking, but that's just the way it is. So let's start off with a little quick comparison here. The Rams and the Seahawks. So, tail of the tape. Overall, interesting matchup. I feel like it's going to be a defensive game based on the statistics we see here. I just think overall, this game, 2 defenses. The Rams defense overall, one of the best in the game. I know they rank 2nd according to DVOA, only behind the Steelers. And for me, I think they're the best in the league. So I think the Rams defense is going to have a nice game plan, as they have the first 2 games they've played the Seahawks, and keep Russell Wilson kind of in check. I feel like they're going to come out and play him tough. Now, on the flip side, Seahawks defense played a lot better in the second matchup than they did in the first. They've overall improved a lot more. Really, they were terrible at the beginning of the year. I remember people were saying, like, are they the worst defense of all time? Well, that's not the case. They've definitely gotten a lot better. In fact, they're in the top 15, according to DVOA, in the NFL at the end of the season. Now, offensively, the Rams aren't great on offense. A lot of that has to do with Jared Goff and the overall quarterback play. But But Sean McVay's there. Robert Woods is there. It appears Cooper Kupp will be back. So that's big for them. And offensively for Seattle, I feel like they have slipped. I think the Rams have kind of been steady average all year long, maybe a little bit above average on offense all year long, and that's about as good as they've been. Seattle, meanwhile, was like maybe the best offense in the league, and they've slipped towards being like good, but not like quite as iconic as they were early on with Let Russ Cook, right? So overall, this game, we could start off with the Rams defense versus the Seahawks offense. I think this game, I'm not really sure who's going to be the quarterback for the Rams. Obviously, that's the other side of the ball. I feel like if it's Wolford, it really doesn't change much. I just saw a report that Jared Goff is back at practice and that he might be in line to start this weekend. But honestly, like, I don't think it really changes the game a ton. Jared Goff is the better passer. I think obviously he has a better arm. Arm strength is much better, and he can probably attack the Seahawks secondary down the field more. But in terms of Wolford, like, he gives a dimension of kind of agility, overall speed, mobility that Jared Goff doesn't have. And we saw in the first matchup, which might as well just get into it now, like, the Seahawks really were not afraid of their ability to boot and then the quarterback's ability to run. Like, Jared Goff was just kind of sitting back there, and he had all this lane to run ahead of him. And Seattle just said, pal, go ahead. Like, they're just like rolling out the red carpet for him. And it just, like, he never runs. Like, I think teams have figured out that he doesn't have the ability to run. And he also doesn't really have, like, the gumption to run. Like, he doesn't have the balls to do it. So, like, Jared Goff can make plays with his arm. If he's on, he's on. He can be a good quarterback in this system. But I think the biggest difference between the two is Wolford can't make the big throws down the field as often, but he can execute all the short and intermediate stuff. And he's a smart player. He doesn't really give the football away as he did in the first game. He seems to be a pretty smart kid. And then you have his ability to run as well. So you can mix in maybe a little bit of more read options and kind of those type of stuff into the Sean McVay offense as well as the fact that you have to respect him when he boots outside the pocket, unlike Jared Goff, where Jared Goff is just looking to pass the whole way and will never run. So it does change Seattle's defense a little bit from that perspective. So we might as well get into that side of the football with Seattle's the Rams offense versus Seattle's defense. So right here, overall, the Rams have the edge in pretty much everything except for red zone. Seattle, their biggest issue versus the Rams has been that, for the most part, the Rams have done a great job at just taking away DK Metcalf because they have Jalen Ramsey. That's been a big part of it. And then they have Aaron Donald and that defensive line who can really wreck, the offensive line of the Seattle Seahawks. More on that matchup in a little bit. But Seattle, to attack the Rams defense, or for the Rams to attack Seattle's defense, I feel like they need to be balanced. It obviously depends who their quarterback is. But the way that you want to attack Seattle's defense, in my opinion, is pass first. I think we've seen all year that Seattle, they are weaker versus the pass than they are the run. Even when they had their struggles, they were a fairly good run defense. Like, early on in the year, I don't know if it just was because teams were deciding to pass on them. So statistically, obviously you're going to give up more pass yards than run yards. But even from a yards per attempt standpoint, like Seattle, they like playing a lot of big personnel. They like having linebackers on the field. They like having defensive linemen on the field. So overall, their game plan is, we will not be ran on. Their system is, we have Jamal Adams in the box. We have he's like an extra linebacker. So essentially what they have is like 8 people in the box on every single play. So obviously that's hard to run on. So that's what's made it difficult for the Rams to run the football on the Seahawks, is they play those bear fronts. They figured it out, like Belichick and Patricia figured it out a couple years ago when the Patriots played the Rams in the Super Bowl that year, right? Patricia did it in Detroit, and then Belichick kind of copied it in New England in the Super Bowl. Like, Seattle has figured out to change to that bare front, set the edge, don't allow the outside zone outside, and Jamal Adams and those linebackers, Bobby Wagner, they clean it up. So overall, they've been pretty good versus the run. So I think for the Rams, honestly, their best game plan, in my opinion, is to treat it like the way that they played the Bucs. I did not see the Rams offense at a more efficient just rate overall all season than I saw them play when they played the Bucs. They basically said, F this, we're not running the ball that much. We are putting the ball in the hands of Goff at the time, and we're going to pass it underneath. We're going to get it out quick. And to me, when you play Seattle just, the defense they play, they allow kind of that underneath stuff. They don't really allow the deep ball very much. Your offense isn't really made for the deep ball regardless. So I feel like implementing a lot of that play action on early downs and getting the ball into your tight end's hands or Cooper Kupp's hands or your back's hands or throwing the screens that you love, Sean McVay, I think that's the best way. I think if the Rams are good on early downs, passing the football, first and second down, they'll be very good at moving the ball on Seattle in this game. That's where I feel like they made a mistake last time. I did the commentary for it, and I was just overall surprised that the Rams ran the ball as much as they did in that game, because I felt like every time they dropped back to pass on early downs, they were quite efficient because, Goff, in the way that McVay can scheme up ways for Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods to find the holes in the zone and kind of, just read the defense and then pop themselves in that little zone area. Like, Jared Goff was efficient at finding those and hitting those for like 5 to 6 to 7 yards on early downs and setting themselves up for a manageable second and a manageable third down. So personally, I feel like the Rams should come out, and we've seen McVay be game plan oriented, be specific game to game oriented, where we're going to attack a defense this way, we're going to attack a defense that way. And the reason I bring up the Bucs is because that was the biggest example of it. They rarely ran the ball because they understood that the Bucs defense is incredible at stopping the run. And Seattle is the same way in a different way. They don't have the players that the Bucs do, but they play a scheme that almost takes away, forces you to pass. So why not pass the ball? You have Robert Woods, you have Cooper Kupp, you have Tyler Higbee. All these guys are great underneath. Get the ball quick out of Goff's hands or whoever it is at quarterback. Make them comfortable. And then if it's third and short or second and short, run the ball from there. But that's overall what I see from this offense. That's the best way to approach it, in my opinion. Now, on the flip side of things, I look at this game as the Seattle offense versus the Rams defense. And I think that Aaron Donald is going to be really, really tough. Okay, obviously. But how does Seattle learn from the first 2 times they played this creative, different defense that not a lot of people play in the NFL? I really think the Rams play almost, what's the word? Like almost a revolutionary style of defense. Like it's very creative. It's very forward thinking. They don't love linebackers. They love DBs. Almost their safeties play as linebackers. And Seattle's a little different here. I think Seattle, like everybody wants them to be let Russ cook, right? But I think this is actually the game for Seattle where they can get away with being more balanced, in my opinion. Because I think Seattle needs to stay balanced in this game. Because if they just go all out pass, I think that's where you get in trouble when you play the Rams. You need to be balanced. You need to keep Aaron Donald off guard. You need to keep him on his toes. You need to keep that defensive line on their toes. And you need to attack a defense that likes to go small with big people. You need to be able to run the ball. So to me, I think Seattle can play the way they've been playing as of recently on offense. But I just don't see enough from a Seattle like shorter intermediate or just overall passing game. Like their passing game basically at this point is like what it reverted to like last year, the year before that, where it's just like Russell Wilson running around and like trying to find somebody open and then making a play. And like that, you can't have that. I mean, like in the playoffs, you need to have go-to plays. You need to have go-to concepts. And I just never really see that from the Seahawks as of late. I think that Seattle can move the ball with some balance. They need to find a way to get DK Metcalf more involved, if that's using more motion, if that's putting him, in the slot. I don't know what they have to do. They need to find something because they need to get him involved early in the game. Tyler Lockett needs to win his matchup. But overall, the biggest thing is obviously the line of scrimmage. I think this game will come down to the line of scrimmage. Is Seattle able to get a push in the run game? Is Seattle able to get a pass rush? Are the Rams able to get to a pass rush? Like this game, more than any other game, maybe across the wild card weekend, maybe determined by the offensive line, defensive line play. Because I think the first time around, we saw the Rams dominate the line of scrimmage. And the second game, Seattle made some big stands on the goal line. We're able to force the Rams out on a big set of downs. We saw the Rams not really have their way rushing the football. We had Seattle have a little bit of success actually running the ball. So I feel like the offensive and defensive lines in these games are massively, massively important. And keeping Russell Wilson upright. And Russell Wilson needs to know that he can't take negative plays. Because when you take negative plays, and meaning sacks, you are not going to be able to execute versus this defense on 3rd and longs. So Russ needs to understand what type of game this is. He's been in enough of these moments, but he needs to understand that this is going to be a slow-scoring, close game. I just can't turn the ball over, and I can't take negative plays. If he does both of those things, along with mixing in the big play where it's there, I think Seattle can come out on top. But I do think the Rams defense is going to give them a lot of issues. And I do think Sean McVay is going to learn from the last game they played versus the Seattle defense and have adjustments to it. So what's my pick? I feel like overall through this analysis, I haven't really given you one way or the other. But on my playoff predictions, I did predict the LA Rams to win the game. Now, I still don't know exactly who the quarterback's going to be, so that may sway my pick. But honestly, I don't think the quarterback is a huge deal here. I'm not a huge Jared Goff fan, and overall, Jared Goff really hasn't played that well versus Seattle, especially the last time. And I honestly think Wolford gives them a little bit more in terms of the ability to move. So I think either way, you have your plus, you have your minuses with the quarterback position. I'm leaning towards the Rams. The reason I'm leaning towards the Rams here, as long as it's not like pouring rain or something like that, because that would change it as well, because I'd obviously lean towards Seattle in that instance. But right now, I'm picking the Rams, and I also really like the Rams plus the points because I think their coaching staff, their ability to adjust, their ability to game plan, their ability to see something in one game and adjust to that the next game is the reason that they'll win this game. The second time they played, now the first time the Rams won, the second time they played, again, I did the play-by-play, I watched the entirety of the game, I was in it, and it felt like the Rams were like the better team on the field, but they just didn't execute in some key instances, like on the goal line, they had the ability to execute, they weren't able to. I feel like that changes in this game. I feel like they go more pass heavy. I'm putting my trust essentially in the Rams coaching staff to make the necessary adjustments from last game to this game. And that, I think, is the difference in this game. That's why I believe in the Rams to pull off the upset here, is because I like the coaching staff of the Rams to make the necessary adjustments key to winning this one. So I'm going to take the Rams. I could see this game going either way. It's going to hinge on probably, it's going to be a one-score game in my opinion. I could see it going either way. Russell Wilson making some plays at the end to win. But I think the Rams defense is for real. I think they're going to give Russell Wilson fits again. And, this is probably the toughest game. This is like the either way game of the week to me. But yeah, I like the Rams coaching staff too much. So I'm going to bet on them to overcome Seattle and get the upset here. So that's my pick for that one. Let me know your pick for that game in the comments as well. Hopefully we're all good. Hopefully we're all good in terms of the lag. We're not lagging anymore. So the next game is going to be, and I think with the graphics, guys, I'm just going to include it in the previews because it's really difficult for me to do all the graphics and then also break down the game. It's just tough. So I wish I had a second person here. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that game. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your pick. If you haven't already, Gronk, spike that like button if you're watching me live, and subscribe if you are new to the channel. All right. So the next game, Saturday night, is going to be, who do we have? I think Tampa Bay and Washington. So that's the next game. Tampa Bay, Washington, Saturday Night Football. Here is your comparison. So the tail of the tape. Tampa Bay, I believe the only team in the NFL to finish with a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense, according to DVOA. I think the Saints were close. I think they were like number 3 or number 5 and number 6 or something. The Saints were the closest team. But in fact, Tampa Bay is the only team to finish top 5 in both categories. Washington, obviously struggling on offense this year with the rotation of quarterbacks. But the reason they've made the playoffs is because of that defense, ranking in the top 5 at number 4. And Tampa Bay also finished, I believe, in the top 3 in the NFC with point differential. They were 3rd behind Green Bay and New Orleans. Washington, if they want to win that game, they got to improve their turnover differential for sure. All right. So, this game. Let's start off with Tampa Bay versus Washington in terms of the Tampa Bay defense versus the Washington offense. Now, personally, this is a bad matchup, in my opinion, for Washington's offense. Now, luckily, Washington does not have to face Devin White because Devin White is their best blitzer on Tampa Bay, and Devin White actually had COVID, didn't play last game versus Atlanta, and will not be able to play this game because he's actually not able to come back from the COVID protocol until Sunday. So he had the same situation as Kamara. Now, Alvin is playing on Sunday because that's one more day where you're allowed to be taken off of the list. In Devin White's case, he has to stay on it for one more day, which is unfortunate for the Bucs. I will say in any game, if you would like to not play, it's probably versus a team that was below 500. But as Bruce Arians said, this team is 4-1 or 5-1 with Alex Smith. So they've been really good with Alex Smith, like in terms of wins and losses. I think the lone game they lost was to Detroit, of all teams, to Matthew Stafford, the one-man show. But, hey, that just speaks to Washington isn't a bad pushover team with Alex Smith. They actually have a legitimate chance. There is actual reason for why they made the playoffs, because they're a much better team with a competent quarterback in Alex Smith. Now, I think Alex Smith is going to have big issues in this game, and I alluded to it, but Tampa Bay is a very heavy blitzing team. Tampa Bay loves to blitz, especially on third down. And Alex Smith is already hurt. We know that he has barely been practicing. He's limited. He's even missed a couple of practices. But Tampa Bay loves to blitz. Their linebackers, Levante David, Devin White, they love to send extra guys at the quarterback in big situations. And Alex Smith is just not the quarterback right now. And Washington is not the offense, I believe, to take advantage of Tampa Bay being aggressive. I don't think Alex Smith has the legs to escape right now, given that he's hurt with his calf injury, and he doesn't have the arm to make the throws down the field. So I don't see Washington being able to counter or having a good counter plan unless they throw a few screens here and there that break for big yardage. I don't see Washington being prepared enough because they simply do not have the quarterback to be able to counter it. But I feel like Tampa is going to send heat in this game, like big time heat. Like they're going to have 3-4 sacks. And if those come early in the game, it's going to be a blowout. Now, if Washington can keep it stable, and this is why the early downs are just that important for Washington. But here's the thing, right? We know that Tampa Bay is the best run defense in the NFL, according to yards per carry, according to yards per game, and according to run DVOA. So across the board, they're the best run defense in the NFL. There's been like one team that's ran on them all year. That was Dalvin Cook and the Vikings. But it's not like Washington is Dalvin Cook and the Vikings. Like, they're like an average rushing attack. They're like number 12, number 13, somewhere in there. Tampa Bay, if this game becomes, okay, Washington's running the ball on first down into a wall for 2 yards, and then it's 2nd and 8, and then maybe they run it again for 2 yards, and it's 3rd and 6, like, Tampa's going to send the hounds. Or maybe it's run for 3 yards and then run for -1. Or like if Tampa just controls the running game, I don't see Washington moving the ball effectively. Now, if Washington comes out early downs, this is where it's really crucial. Washington needs to throw the ball on early downs, and they need to get the ball out quickly of Alex Smith's hands. That's the time to throw the screens, to quick Terry McLaurin slant, throw it out of the backfield to McKissick or to Gibson, like get a matchup. Even then, Levante David, great linebacker who will be probably covering one of those backs. So it's going to be difficult. Like, they don't have a lot of great matchups. I think their best matchup will be taking advantage of Minter, who's going to be replacing Devin White. And most likely one of those guys is going to be at some point covering the back or the tight end. And that's probably their best matchup. Carlton Davis is expected back. He'll probably be on Terry McLaurin. I do expect McLaurin to have a fair share of catches in this game, but I wouldn't expect him to go off. So overall, your best bet is to take advantage of Minter when he's on the field, if you can, and get the ball out quick, pass the ball on early downs, and keep yourself out of 3rd and long. Because if Washington gets in 3rd and long, it's a wrap. Because I just don't think Alex Smith has the physical capability of being able to do anything at that point. And they don't have enough playmakers to be able to do anything. And I also think Tampa Bay just overall is a better unit up front than the Washington unit is for their offensive line. So I think Tampa Bay, it's a bad matchup for Washington's offense. I think it's going to be tough for them to sustain the ability to move the football, which means a lot more pressure is going to be on Washington's defense to make plays and to be able to stop Tom Brady, which is always not a great sign. Now, on that side of the football, I know everybody's excited because I think a lot of people look at the numbers and look at Washington and they say, Washington has been able to just sustain pressure, pass rush, and get after quarterbacks. I will say, there's been other games where they haven't. The one in particular I look at is actually Detroit. Again, Detroit, who beat them, Matthew Stafford had 3 touchdowns, 275 yards, almost in a similar offense to Tampa Bay in the fact that they love to throw the ball down the field. Tampa Bay throws the ball down the field more than any other offense in the NFL. And we know this, right? No risk it, no biscuit with Bruce Arians. Tom Brady's been very, 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 very good at the end of the year. And a big reason for that is the receivers, the scheme, and he's just connecting on those deep balls when teams are giving them the opportunity. But I want to see, this is the number one thing I want to see in this game. I want to see, because I think Tampa Bay is going to win. I'm not really concerned about that. What I'm concerned about is how does Tampa Bay approach offense? Like, early, this is what Tampa Bay needs to say. We are not going to let ourselves lose this game. So the way that Tampa Bay would lose this game is by trying to attack the Washington defense constantly down the field. Okay? That is a bad idea because Washington's pass rush, if given time to get to Brady, will get to Brady. Now, if you allow Tom Brady to operate in a quick strike offense where he is snapping, looking, and throwing, Washington, it doesn't matter how good their pass rush is, they will not be able to get to Brady in time. So a big key to this game and a big key to whether Tampa Bay blows Washington out or if it's close is how Tampa approaches their game plan offensively. To me, I feel like Tampa is going to run the ball Washington is susceptible to the run. They're not bad, but they're not great in that area. They're going to run with Ronald Jones a fair amount. When they take shots, they need to make sure to have extra guys in protection, which they've been doing a better job of lately. And Tampa Bay's offensive line has been very, very good lately. I think Brady's been the least pressured quarterback over the last half of the season. So they have a good offensive line, guys. A lot of people don't think that. I don't know why, but if you just watch them, you would see it. They've had a couple bad games on primetime. The Rams game, they had no Ali Marpet, which was a big deal. And the Saints game, what they did versus the Saints game is what I'm talking about. They tried to attack the Saints the way that you shouldn't be attacking the Saints. The Saints have a great defensive line. Their pass rush is great, just like Washington. And when you allow them to get to the quarterback, you allow them extra time, and you're looking down the field, you're trying to hit big play after big play, they're going to get to you. They're going to cause turnovers. They're going to cause interceptions. They're going to get sacks. They're going to get pressure. But I think Tampa Bay, in this game, they've been implementing more of it lately. A lot of quick stuff to Brown, specifically Antonio Brown, who I think will have a big game, and Chris Godwin as well. And then when they take the shot, it's Gronk's in the block, Brate's in the block. We have 7-man, 8-man protection. It's only like 2 guys on a route, and it's Brady. He's comfortable. He's got extra guys blocking for him. Then he takes the shot down the field. Washington, to counter that, needs to kind of figure out when Tampa Bay, the tendencies of Tampa Bay, when to drop more guys into coverage and when to pass rush, right? If Washington is all over those big play action plays and just has too many guys in coverage, then they'll be fine. That's actually where they could be quite good. And we've seen when Tampa is forced into checking down to their running back a lot, that's when you can beat them. And I feel like Tom Brady and the Bucs have evolved since then, but hey, check it. See if they can do it. See if they've evolved. See if they've changed their approach. If you're Washington, do the same thing as the Saints did. I mean, the Saints basically all game in the second game said throw it to Leonard Fournette. Which I don't think Leonard Fournette will be out there a lot. I think it will be McCoy instead as the pass downs back with Ronald Jones as well. But still, like tell them to do that. Like if you take away the deep shot, force them to beat you underneath for the start. If they're able to, then you adjust. But I think Washington just like play to your strength. And I just, here's the thing, like there's so many weapons on Tampa Bay. Obviously, Washington can't play a lot of man-to-man because they're outmatched, especially if Mike Evans is there. So they're going to have to play a lot of zone, and you're just trying to take away the bread and butter. You're allowing your pass rush to get there. If Tampa Bay plays into your game plan, then you got a shot, right? But if not, then you might have to adjust and take that quick stuff. And almost, you kind of got to force Brady in that facet to beat you over the top consistently. So it's an interesting kind of chess match there on defense and on offense from Tampa Bay, Washington's perspective. This is going to be a really good matchup. One side of the ball that I'm looking forward to in this game. But I just think Tom Brady and the Bucs have evolved. I think they've gotten a lot better. I think Brady's playing the best ball he's played all year. I think he finally has chemistry with his receivers within this offense. They know what they want to be. They're running the ball quite well as well. So they have answers in a multitude of ways. They have answers in the screen game, in the quick game, in the deep game, in the run game. And I do think Tampa Bay has one of the few offensive lines that can actually hold up versus Washington. So I think Tampa Bay, as long as they don't put themselves in position to lose this game, should win and should cover. Honestly. I would be a little surprised. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Washington covered the game because I know why it would happen. Because we've seen Tampa Bay lose games or come close to losing games because their coaching staff was inept in certain games. But I feel like they've learned, and I'm going to put faith in that they have. And for that reason, I like Tampa Bay. They're building momentum. They're playing good football. And I don't think Washington has the offense specifically to keep up with Brady on the other side. Like, if Washington had an offense where they were, even like Atlanta's offense, where Atlanta has given the Bucs defense some issues, like they've moved the ball in those games where they get the ball out quick. You know, Matt Ryan makes a decisive decision. They got good receivers. You know, they can pass the ball on them. Like, I don't think Washington can do that. So I don't think they can really make this one close. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay to win. I'm going to take Tampa Bay to cover. And I like Tampa Bay overall. I think this should be the blowout of the week. I won't say it will be, but it should be. On paper, it looks like it should be. You're playing a team with a losing record, obviously. It is on the road, but there's no real fan factor there. I just think that Tampa Bay is so much more talented. It's going to be very hard for Washington to overcome. If Washington wins this game, it's going to be because they get out-coached. They don't protect Brady. And that's a choice, right? They could be more conservative and just decide to win this game, in a tight defensive game if they really wanted. But I just feel like Tampa Bay, to lose this game, needs to legitimately lose this game. They need to turn the ball over. They need to have bad special teams. They need to, maybe coverage busts. Like, if they play their game, they execute, and they protect Tom, they're winning. Like, I don't see any way that if Tampa comes out there and they play well, they lose. So, for that, I'm going to take Tampa Bay to win, and I will take Tampa Bay to cover. All right. So, that's the Saturday night game. The next game, let me know who you think's going to win in that game on Saturday night, and do you think Tampa Bay will be able to cover the game? If I had Opium, what did I see in the chat? If you guys, what was I going to say? Damn, we have over 230 people in here. Yeah, let me know if you guys think Washington can cover this game, and let me know what you think the score will be. If I'm going with a score in that game, I think it's going to be Tampa Bay. I actually think Tampa Bay is going to score like 30-ish. But I think part of it will be because their defense gets the ball. Like, they take the ball away once or twice. So I feel like it's going to be like 34 to like 16 for Tampa. That's kind of my feeling about it. They'll win by double digits, somewhere in there. I don't see Washington scoring over 20 points unless their defense scores in the game. And I would expect Washington to turn the ball over at least once. Maybe Tampa does too, but as long as it's not for a touchdown, I feel like it will be fine. All right. So we're going to go with Baltimore. Lori says, I hate Tampa Bay, but they will win. Baltimore, Tennessee. Okay. All right. Durkant says Washington can cover, but it'd be more because Tampa Bay lets go of steam after going up by a certain amount. I don't even know if Washington could win in comeback fashion. That suggests that you think Washington would come back. Kevin says, kind of thinking Washington football team. They beat my Steelers, which was massive wake-up call. Washington football team has a top 10 defense. I got Washington. Wow. Well, I'll just say this, like Tampa has a way better offense than Pittsburgh. So I'll just put that out. I don't think, like, I could go through Washington's schedule. I don't think they've played an offense this good all year. I could be wrong there, but I don't think they have. I'm actually going to look at that because I'm curious before we get to this Baltimore game. But I'm curious. So Washington has played right? Like, I'm looking at their schedule. I don't see one that they've played that's better or the same. At least not statistically. Played Philly. They played Arizona, Cleveland, Ravens, Rams, Giants, Cowboys, Giants, Lions, Bengals, Cowboys, Steelers, Seahawks, Panthers, Eagles. I would not say any of those offenses are as good as Tampa. So, yeah. All right. So let's go to the Baltimore game. Baltimore, Tennessee, in my opinion, is the best game of the weekend. It is the early game on Sunday. Baltimore is looking for revenge from last year's playoffs, losing in the divisional round as the number 1 seed versus Tennessee, who was the number 6 seed, I think, last year. They beat New England, and yeah, I think they were the 6 seed. So the 6 seed beat the 1 seed, I believe. So this game's going to be good. I just think it's going to be the feistiest, the toughest, the overall a rivalry here almost. Like it's been brewing. They've played this year, they played last year in the playoffs. I just think this is going to be a playoff game, like a legitimately in your face tough game of football. So let's take a look at the tail of the tape. I feel like I'm a UFC announcer. Let's take a look at that. So, Baltimore, 11th offense, Tennessee 3. Baltimore, 15th defense, Tennessee 29. We'll talk about that. Baltimore, a 165-point differential, which was the best in football. Tennessee, 52. Overall, this is going to be a great game because I don't really know what to expect from both sides of the ball, honestly. I think because of the familiarity between the two teams from the past two matchups, I think it's going to be high scoring, but because of both of the ways that these two teams play offense, it'll be interesting. So I don't know the health right now of Baltimore's front, but it is massively important on defense. Calais Campbell, Derek Wolfe, Brandon Williams, these guys are crucially important. And this is a huge reason. I mean, think back to last year, right? The reason Baltimore signed Derek Wolfe and traded for Calais Campbell is because they got ran all over by Derrick Henry. So will these guys make the difference in this game? In my opinion, Derrick Henry will not run for as much success as he had in the past two games. I think Baltimore will do a better job on that. Now, they need to be careful that they aren't allowing big plays down the field in the passing game. A.J. Brown is tough. Marlon Humphrey's going to draw the assignment. That might be the best individual matchup all weekend. That's a great matchup. Corey Davis, Marcus Peters, that's another great matchup. But I think both teams will sell out to stop the run. I think on both sides of the ball, Tennessee will sell out to stop Lamar and the rushing attack, and Baltimore will sell out to stop Tennessee in the passing attack, or the rushing attack, sorry. Tennessee has actually been a better offense when they put the ball in the hands of Ryan Tannehill, efficiency-wise. They've been better passing the football through their play-action game with Ryan Tannehill. That's how they create most of their big plays, and then they grind it out at the end and run the football. A crucial part of last year's game was Baltimore getting behind early and Tennessee getting up early because it completely went the way of Tennessee, right? Tennessee was able to make a few big plays early in the game offensively through play action. I remember specifically the Khalif Raymond touchdown. That was huge. It was Khalif Raymond, right? I believe it was. It was like a post down the field 50 yards. You guys probably remember, especially Tennessee fans. But the beginning of this game, the first quarter, is more important in this game than in any other game the whole weekend. Whoever wins the first quarter, I'd be willing to bet will win the game. I'd be willing to bet. I think that Baltimore is building momentum to the playoffs, playing very good football. Obviously, the point differential speaks for itself. And they obviously have an extra chip on their shoulder from the last two matchups. I don't know how much you can take that into account, but I think it is a factor. I just like the way Lamar is playing right now. I think a big factor as well in that last game, in the playoffs, I should say, last year, was the Ravens being caught off guard, kind of playing overconfident and getting ran over. Physically getting ran over and not coming out with a chip, not coming out with an edge. This year, it's different. I think Baltimore's coming from a perspective and an angle of underdog. They're coming from it, even though they're not underdogs in this game, they're coming from the angle of we need to prove people wrong. And that's a big deal to me because I feel like a big reason the Ravens lost last year to the Titans was because they were shocked early. They came into the game, we're the number 1 seed, we're expected to win the Super Bowl, like we're this almighty team. And Tennessee smacked them in the mouth. And Tennessee was riding the momentum of their late season surge, of beating New England in their building. That's a very rare feat. And they had all this momentum and charisma and just like they were feeling themselves. Baltimore is almost what Tennessee was last year. Tennessee has been playing kind of, shaky lately, right? Like they almost lost to the Texans last week. Their defense just hasn't shown up. They're not playing with the physicality, the edge they played with last year that enabled them to go on the run last year. Like a lot of these things are not necessarily statistics. They're not necessarily X's and O's. But in my opinion, they're massive factors for what happened last year that you need to account where these two teams are this year. And I really just love the way Lamar is playing. I like the way they've been running the ball. I like the way they've been mixing in Marquise Brown in the passing game. And I think the Ravens will move the ball on a defense that's one of the worst in the league. The Titans are 29th by DVOA. They're bottom 5 in the league at the very least. They really can't defend the run or the pass very well. They have shown that they can contain Lamar in the past, but will that show up this time around? The way they're playing suggests I'm not sure. On the other side, I don't think Tannehill is going to have a ton of success passing the ball, even if, the Ravens kind of play heavy towards the run game of Derrick Henry. And I think if the Ravens stop the run early, that's going to force the Ravens, the Titans into a hole and the Ravens to jump out in front, in which case that's a bad thing for Tennessee because Tennessee is really, really, really good from playing out in front. So is the Ravens, right? So again, this game will be determined in the first quarter. Whoever comes out and plays their style, they're very difficult to beat once they maintain their style of play. Baltimore out in front, Tennessee out in front, right? Tennessee out in front, they can hit you any which way they like. And defensively, they're creative enough in the passing game, blitz-wise, where they can get after you and make some plays. They're very opportunistic defensively, even though they're not very good. Baltimore is made to stop the pass on defense. They love to blitz. And Tannehill is not as good, and the Titans are not as good of a passing offense in a traditional sense when they just drop back out a shotgun and they're passing. They're amazing off play action, but they're kind of average just passing the ball. So who comes out quicker? Who comes out with more momentum? Who comes out and sets the tone? And in my opinion, that will be Baltimore. Not saying that the Titans cannot win the game if that happens, but I just like the way that Baltimore is playing recently. I feel the momentum, and I feel that they have something to prove here. And I think that the Ravens are overall playing the better football and are overall the better team. So I'm going to take Baltimore to get revenge here. Again, if the Titans are up in the first quarter and they come out strong, Titans probably win, and I'll be wrong. But the Ravens, I just have a good feeling about them. And even though people will say, the Titans, they own the Ravens, I don't see it happening this time. I just look at it, the recent performance, and the Ravens, I can't see it 3 times in a row. Lamar has so much to prove in this game. Imagine if Lamar loses this game in the playoffs. Guys, I'm sorry. I just don't see it. I think the Ravens are going to win. I think they're going to get their revenge. So I'm going to go. I think the Ravens are going to score in the 30s, or maybe the high 20s. It really depends on how the game flow goes in terms of the ball possession and how much time they take. I feel like it's going to be an offensive game, but you won't really be aware because the scoreboard, I feel, might not be as high as how well the offenses are playing. I don't know how to really put that, but it's going to be like a ball possession game, I think. I don't think it's going to be like a quick strike game. So I think it's going to be 30-24 for Baltimore, something like that. 30-27 31-27, 31-24, something like that. Maybe like 27-23. I'm going to take Baltimore. The half point is infuriating. Like, I hate it. I might lean towards the Titans with the half point. I'm not exactly sure. This is probably the game that I'm least going to put money on, like least likely to put money on. So I'll say Baltimore wins. I'm not confident about the spread. I will take the Titans with the hook because I do think it could end up being a field goal game within 3. Then again, if the game does go over and it's really high scoring, you're less inclined to take the points, and you're more inclined to take the team that you think will win because more points, larger number of spread, obviously. So I'm going to go with Baltimore. I will take the hook though. If this gets to 3, I probably lean towards Baltimore. I'm not sure, man. That's tough. Like, I might change my spread pick, but I'm pretty confident about Baltimore winning this game overall. So it will be a good one. I'm excited for it though. Should be a really, really, really good game. Game of the weekend, in my opinion. Let me know who you guys think will win that game. Second game is Chicago and New Orleans. So let's take a look at that. Guys, if you haven't already, before we get to the final 2 games of Wild Card Weekend, make sure you do Gronk, spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more NFL. All right. Okay. Chicago at New Orleans. New Orleans is minus 10.5 in this game. I think they're kind of almost enticing you to take Chicago, in my opinion. I feel like making this 10.5 is almost daring people to bet on Chicago, which might be a good idea, but it might not be a good idea. Like, depending on Mitchell Trubisky, we all know this. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape. So, Chicago's offense, 24th. New Orleans, 6th. Defense, 9th for Chicago. New Orleans, 3rd. Really was great at the end of the season. 145-point differential. Meanwhile, Chicago, 2-point differential. So, New Orleans sweeps across the board. Better offense, better defense, better overall team this season. It would take a lot. That's why it's a 10.5 point spread. So obviously it would take a lot. All right. So this game, let's just approach it from this way. How can Chicago actually win this game? Right? Because it's the biggest spread of the week. It's even bigger than Tampa Bay and Washington, which I think is a little surprising, at least in my opinion. But it's even bigger than that game. So how can Chicago win this game? Let's just start with that. So I think if Chicago can somehow run the ball in this game and get pressure on Drew Brees with consistency on both sides, they got a chance. Because I think if this becomes Mitchell Trubisky is going to have to bail us out, the Bears are losing 100%, like 10 out of 10 times. If Chicago is able to maintain balance, if Allen Robinson wins his matchup on the outside, they got a chance to move the ball. And on the other side, if Akeem Hicks has a big game, if Khalil Mack has a big game, I don't know the health of the secondary for Chicago, which is, I think, a big factor. We've seen Chicago's defense play really well, and that was when their secondary was intact. Lately, their secondary has been without their second and their third corner, Buster Skrine and Jalen Johnson, the rookie. And when those guys have been out, their defense has been drastically worse these last few games. So if those guys are back in the lineup, that will be a huge boost, in my opinion. It's in a dome. That helps Drew Brees, in my opinion. It actually helps both quarterbacks because I think Trubisky's also pretty prone to inaccuracies. Even though he has a pretty strong arm, he's very inaccurate. So I feel like a perfect weather, environment is good for him. because at least there's no wind or snow or rain to deal with. And so for Drew Brees, the same thing, because Drew Brees is accurate, but the arm strength in the wind would be a factor. If this game was in Chicago, I think it's a lot different because that plays a factor, the Windy City, obviously. But yeah, I think the Bears front seven needs to win. And I'm not sure if they will, because New Orleans has a really great offensive line. Now, I don't think that Alvin Kamara is going to have a huge game. I believe Roquan Smith will play, and I also believe that Chicago will do a good job at defending the Saints' rushing attack. So that will mean that Drew Brees will have to make the most of the passing game. But I just don't think that Chicago can really hang, because I don't think Chicago's offense is going to play very well in this game. Like, I actually think Chicago's defense can do a decent job, but I don't think that their offense, I don't think their run game will be super successful. The Saints rank near the top of the league there. Their pass rush is very good. It's going to be very tough for Mitchell Trubisky. You got Lattimore to cover Robinson, obviously, and that's their biggest weapon by a mile. I don't see the Bears offense scoring more than 20 points in this game. And that is, you can't not score more than 20 when you play New Orleans in New Orleans, even with old man Brees. I think Brees will do enough getting the ball out quick, not allowing the pass rush to get to him. But I do think the Bears defense will do a pretty good job. So maybe in a way I like the under in this game. But I like the Saints to win. I am going to take Chicago because I just think 10.5 points is too many points in the playoffs, especially with a quarterback like Brees, who I don't think can make many big plays down the field. So a lot of what the Saints are going to have to do is dink and dunk, and it's going to have to be a lot of plays on a drive, on a long drive to score. So that makes the game more condensed. It means less possessions, and it means more time of possession. For Chicago, I just don't see them scoring a lot. So I think it's going to be like 27-17, like 24-16, 23-17, maybe even like 24 to like 13. I don't know, somewhere in that range. I'm willing to bet that Chicago keeps it close enough with the 10.5 points. I also don't mind that it's a half a point. Maybe Vegas is suckering me into that. But overall, I don't trust the Saints to blow out the Bears, especially after what happened last year. I was very confident about the Saints versus the Vikings last year, and that was an utter disaster. So I'm not willing to take the Saints in a first playoff game by over double digits. I'm not having it. But I do believe the reason they win is because of their defense in this game, and because Drew Brees makes good decisions, gets rid of the ball quickly, and they operate with Michael Thomas back in the lineup underneath the defense, picking apart their defense underneath, moving the football for long drives. And that allows the Saints to win this game. So that's my opinion on that game. I have New Orleans to win, and I think that's pretty close to a lock. But I have Chicago to cover. And the final game is the Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh is at home. They obviously have already played twice, being inside the AFC North. Pittsburgh is now minus 6.5 after this line started at like 4 or 4.5. Started way lower than this. But Cleveland is probably going to be without Kevin Stefanski, who has COVID. So they don't even have their head coach in this game, as far as I understand. And Cleveland, we've seen, it's not a very good matchup versus Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh's been able to pressure the Browns, pressure Baker Mayfield, stop the run effectively, and Ben has performed well versus the Cleveland defense. So when I look at this game, I like Pittsburgh, and I will take Pittsburgh to cover. I think perhaps the best part of Cleveland all year has been Kevin Stefanski calling plays. And the fact that he might not be able to be at the game is extremely extremely, extremely concerning for me. I think that is a massive, massive loss. Now, I don't think Pittsburgh is very good. I'm going to be honest with you. I've said it all year. I think they're a fine, decent, good team, but they're not great. But they're extremely well matched with Cleveland. Because what does Cleveland love to do? They love to run the ball, and off of that, they love to utilize play action. And when you can't run the ball as effectively, it sets you up in more must-pass situations, obvious pass situations, which means that Pittsburgh can send the hounds and get after Baker Mayfield. And Cleveland doesn't really have the receivers to win on the outside without Odell. So I think Pittsburgh finds a way to win this game by double digits because I just think they're a bad matchup for Cleveland. And Stefanski not being there, I feel like the tendencies, the play calling, the rhythm that he gets Baker Mayfield in, the intelligence that he has from a play calling perspective will be sorely missed. And on the other side of the ball, I think that Ben has a solid game. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape real quick. So Pittsburgh, obviously their offense hasn't been very good this year. Cleveland's has been much better. Their defense has been ranked number 1. Cleveland's defense has been ranked 26th. Here's where I have a problem, all right? Cleveland has beat up on bad teams. Obviously, they have a negative point differential, which is shocking. But Pittsburgh's a bad offense, or not a very good offense. They're kind of an average offense, but they play a bad defense. Cleveland's a bad defense. Cleveland has a couple defensive playmakers, but where you look at where they're strong, where they're weak, right? They have Denzel Ward, who's awesome, but other than that, their corners aren't very good. So Denzel Ward might be covering Deontay Johnson, but that means Claypool and Juju should have very good games. Eric Ebron is a problem. If he is in the lineup, I don't even know if he is or not. He's been hurt. I don't think he's out for the season, though. I don't know. Steelers fans can let me know on that one. But I just feel like those two receivers, Juju, Claypool, should have big games. Claypool had a big game last week, actually. And then, like, everything that they love to do underneath, like crossers underneath, stuff like that. Like, the Browns don't have the linebackers. They don't have the safeties to be able to, react quickly, make plays on the ball, like cover. Like, Cleveland is weak at linebacker. They're weak at safety. They're weak in the middle of the field. And they're not very, they have a strong pass rush, but Pittsburgh gets rid of the ball extremely quickly. They get the ball out of their hands extremely quickly. Cleveland is going to have a very good defensive game plan to keep up, in my opinion. Because I think Pittsburgh is not a very good offense, but when they're allowed to play the style that they want to play with Ben, they've been solid to good. So I think just on both sides of the ball, it plays into the way that the Steelers want to play. And that is concerning to me in any matchup when a team can just play the way that they play and win comfortably. So I'm taking Big Ben, the Steelers at home. I think their defense has a strong performance. They do enough in the run game to defend Chubb, to defend Kareem Hunt. They force Baker into third down and longs. They get pressure. They get punts. They get turnovers. And then Ben steadily moves the ball down the field. Couple big throws in the game, but mostly underneath stuff. I don't really think their run game will be a factor, but Claypool and Juju both have big games, and I think Pittsburgh wins this game and advances to the divisional round. I will take Pittsburgh to win. I was going to take Cleveland plus the points until I heard about Stefanski. That seriously concerns me. So I will take Pittsburgh to win, and I will take Pittsburgh to cover the 6.5. I think they'll win by 7 to 10 points. Not really confident in that. But as of now, I'll take the Steelers to cover that spread. I just don't see the Browns scoring a lot of points. I think it's going to be like Pittsburgh 27, Browns 20. Or Pittsburgh 30, Cleveland 23. Something like that. I'll take Pittsburgh over the Cleveland Browns and by more than 6.5. So those are my picks for the wild card weekend. Again, guys, I will be releasing all of these games independently as independent previews. And then on top of that, I'll be diving a little bit deeper into kind of like a little bit of the betting approach, looking at totals, looking at team totals, looking at game props that I like, that I think could be interesting. So I'll be doing all that, and of course my best bets for the week, which I'll just be going over my number 5 to my number 1, or my number 6, I guess, to my number 1 in terms of my confidence versus the spread this week in the wild card round to help you guys win some money this wild card round. So let's get to the comments. Let me know your comments right now and any questions you have about wild card weekend. If you guys haven't already, Gronk, spike that like button and subscribe to the channel for more NFL. All right. There it is. If you guys are interested, by the way, in the Madden League that's starting up at the end of the year, then make sure you join the Discord and hit up Turtle, because we're starting to get that going again if you were interested in it last year. SM said, good luck to all and make money this weekend on NFL playoffs. Enjoy. Sean says, I'm high. Connor says, quarterback Browns, running back Browns, wide receiver Steelers, tight end Browns, offensive line Browns. What did I have? I think I had that comparison. Let me see. There it is. I got quarterback Steelers, running back Browns, wide receiver tight end Steelers, offensive line Browns, coaching Steelers. So there you go. Bethel has the Steelers 31-14. Jack has the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl. I'll probably include all those graphics in the game previews too, so you can check those out. Ken says, bro, the Ravens D is all healthy. First time Ngakwe, Humphreys, Judon, Queen together in a game. That defense is going to be nasty. Let's hope. Ronald says, thanks for helping me win both my leagues. No problem, Ronald. Congratulations. Turtle says, wow, pretty bold take that Baker isn't better than Ben all time. LOL. Turtle says, Claypool is not usually double covered. What? Opium says, thought on Ramsey clamping DK for the 3rd time. I hope to see a good competitive contest. Let's just say that. Questions. Let's go. DeForest Buckner and Rocky Sin mispractice. That's not good. JK says, you didn't talk about the Chief bias, Mitch. Because the Chiefs aren't playing this weekend. Sean says, beat the Titans, Colts, Washington. Browns went toe-to-toe with the Ravens, and they beat those teams. Yeah, I mean, they beat some good teams. I'm not saying, but they've mostly at the end of the year, they've beat up on bad teams. They even lost to the Jets, so. The Chiefs are not the greatest show on television. They can prove it to us this playoff round. How about that? Connor says, full season projection for rookie quarterback statistics. Oh, yeah. I don't think that would have actually happened, but okay. Ultra says, Mitch ranked the playoff quarterbacks. Henry says, real bias. I don't know what you're talking about, bro. Let's do it right now. I'm writing it down. Number 1. I'm going to take Mahomes, number 1. Number 2, Rodgers. Number 3, I'm going to go with... I want to say Wilson, but I don't know. He hasn't been playing that well lately, but I guess I'll go with Wilson. Wilson at number 3. At number 4... I think the top 5 is pretty easy. I'm going to go with, I know that Lamar and Brady are in the top 5, but I don't know who I'd put over who. I think right now they're both playing amazing, so it's kind of, they're so different though. I'm going to put Brady at 4, and I'm going to put Lamar at 5. And then at number 6, I'm going to go, I have to remember, to be honest. Let's see. Oh, I forgot Allen. Allen I would put at 3. Never mind. So Allen's at 3. Wilson at 4. Brady at 5. Brady at 5. Then you got Lamar at 6. Then at 7, you got Tannehill probably. Tannehill. Then at number 8, you have who's left? Goff, Alex Smith, Trubisky, Mayfield, Ben. I would go Ben at 8, Mayfield at 9. At 10, I would go Rivers. 11, I think you could put 8 to 10 in any order, and I would be fine with that. 11, I would go with Goff. 12, I would go with Trubisky. And 13, am I missing somebody? Dude, what am I doing here? Am I missing? Oh, Breeze. Damn it, Breeze. Yeah, 8. Ooh, Ben or Breeze. That's tough. I think Ben. Over Breeze. I don't know. Yeah, Ben and Breeze are... Let's just say Ben and Breeze are tied at 8. And then we got 13. We got Alex Smith. Or 14, depending on how you do it. So there you go. Wolford. Baker is like number 9, number 10. Tannehill's number 7. Yeah, Tannehill's not better than any of the guys ahead of him. He's not better than Mahomes, Rodgers, Allen, Wilson, Brady, or Lamar. In my opinion, at least. But he's clearly better than Ben and Breeze. Bethel has Rodgers 1, Mahomes 2, Wilson 3, 4 Allen, 5 Tannehill, 6 Lamar, 7 Breeze, 8 Brady. I don't know how you have Brady that low and Lamar that low either. But okay, it's your list. Joe Mixon with his awards: MVP Rodgers, Offensive Player of the Year Henry, Defensive Player of the Year Watt, Offensive Rookie of the Year Herbert, Defensive Rookie of the Year Young, Comeback Player of the Year Smith, Play of the Year Hopkins, Hail Mary. Yeah, Smith is the worst. Ultra says Mahomes and Tyreek are Rodgers and Adams. Mahomes and Tyreek. Is Connor a Bears fan? Probably. I'm going to be making an awards video, yes. Bethel says, have you seen Lamar in his playoff career, Mitch? Oh, come on. Winner says, what are your thoughts on the matchup between the Bucs defense and the Washington offense? If Washington rotates their quarterbacks. It's not a good matchup for Washington. But you could check out the independent game preview or watch this after. All right, guys. Let's get to 69 likes before I go. We're at 68. So Gronk spiked that like button. One more. Gronk's favorite number, 69. Let's go. Ultra says Brady is definitely better than Breeze, and I would take him over Tannehill as well. Sean says, oh, well, what's your Super Bowl matchup? Bro, Sean, check out my video, man. I made a whole playoff predictions. You can see it there. Samuel says free Watson and free Watt. I think if you were ranking it in terms of like form, okay, this is just my personal opinion on how good they are. But if you were ranking it in terms of form, it would be Rodgers 1, Allen 2, Brady 3. Then it would be Lamar 4, Mahomes 5, Tannehill 6, Wilson 7. If you were ranking in terms of form, like who's the best right now, like playing the best. But that's just like how I would rank it, like talent and overall, like how good they are right now. Latif says, sup, what's up? All right, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, Gronk spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It's Mitch. Check out the independent game previews if you missed anything. There'll also be an extra bit of information on each of them. And check out the best bets. What else? Patreon, description below. You can donate to the channel. Make my dreams come true as an independent content creator. What else we got? Discord. If you want to have fun during the playoffs and chat with other wonky, crazy NFL fans, check out the Discord. And if you're interested in that Madden League, also check out the Discord and hit up Turtle. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. It's Mitch. See you soon. Tomorrow, game previews will be out. Peace.